Yeah, well, we wanted to rest right away. So we took, we traveled. I'm gonna just want to make sure I have my days. Was it Thursday, I believe, Gary? We traveled Thursday back, so Friday we were off. And I just felt, we talked about as a team, like you got to try to get your body back, right, your body clock back on this time zone and going to sleep at the right time and all of that. So I feel like we've done that. There hasn't been any lingering effects, at least from my perspective, when we're in between the lines on the court since we've been back. I haven't noticed anything different, any lulls. Like we've practiced well since we've been back. We have to have a good practice today, certainly. But I also think this time of year, I'm a believer in making sure that you have your best stuff on game day. And so what you do in practice, how you spend your time, is critical, and we're not wasting time on the court. We're moving with urgency. It's crisp. It's to the point. Obviously we can't shortcut the prep, but I think we want to operate with great efficiency. So we're all ready for game day.
Did you talk to other coaches that have made that trip? I don't know, talk to Coach McGuff. You talked to other maybe coaches in the league about just kind of how they've handled it, compare maybe some best practices to make sure you're at your best.
Yeah. I think have sought the advice of others who have experienced the trip, and I think ultimately we know our team best, and as I've done all year, I think leaning on our sports performance team is we have the resources we have here are incredible, and that is a big part of that is our sports performance team, the sports science. So we've tried to lean on that as well for guidance.
Just since the last time you played Nebraska, what have you seen from them growth-wise, and how do you maybe take what happened, Bryce Williams having a 24 points double-double the first time he played, and apply that to maybe having a better plan of attack to slow him down this time?
Yeah, well, he hasn't slowed down much since then. I mean, he's playing at such a high level, and I think certainly he's a big focal point of the game plan, but it can't be exclusively on him. I thought Gary was really impactful. First time we played him, with his ability to get to the rim and offensive rebounds, and then Asijan is a guy who can score in bunches quickly and change the complexion of games and swing momentum. So I think certainly being mindful of all the strengths of their guys, but we didn't rebound well enough the first time. That was part of it. We got to give Williams different looks, so he can't just get into a rhythm, but he's a good player and he's going to make some tough shots, so making sure he doesn't get easy ones. Like he got a cutting layup, uncontested layup last game. That can't happen, for such a good scorer, right? So that's going to be the big thing is certainly he's got to see some different looks, and he'll see different defenders. But I think the rebounding, we took care of the ball well against them. That's going to be important because they've gone on some runs here lately, and they've gotten some easy buckets off forcing teams into turnovers.
Obviously, senior day tomorrow. For Quest and for Micah, what foundations have they helped set for you as in year one of your program?
Yeah, well, I think, and you guys know this, how important toughness and playing together are, and how, it was important in year one to establish that. So those guys played a part in that. It's such a unique time in college basketball because you have guys, coming into a program for 1 year, and for us, this is very much year one. This is our first year as a program moving forward. So, for them to come here and believe in what we're doing, and to be bought in, and to play hard, and to practice hard every day, because we do that. Like this is not a program that, like, there's accountability, and we practice hard, and we may not practice near as long as some teams, and they've embraced it. So I'm just so thankful for those guys and how they've embraced what we're about, and how they've played a role in our growth as a team. I think we've really grown since the season started, and they've helped us handle the adversity we've seen well, and I'm just really thankful for that.
I think you can make a case that you guys, Nebraska and Indiana, are probably the three most bubble-esque teams in the Big Ten. Does it almost feel like audition week in a way? I mean, almost like the tournament starts early with considering the opponents this week?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no hiding from how important these games are. And, you know, for us, regardless, and really for any of our teams, regardless of the opponent, they're all important. But the fact that we play both of them, you know, I think is a great opportunity for us. Our focus right now is on Nebraska and playing our best, you know, tomorrow night, and that's it. We've talked a lot about being in the moment, and that's what we've done. And, you know, it's certainly we did it, and we did that well in California. You know, I thought we lived in the moment. Could have used, you know, some more makes against UCLA, but we competed, we battled, we were tough, we were together, we fought all the way through. And then we turned around against, you know, USC and did it again. So that has to be who we are this time of year. And the magnitude of the games are obvious, but we're not doing anything but living in the moment and giving our best, you know, one possession, kind of one segment of the game at a time.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask you is, you know, hypothetically on a resume, every game means the same, but I assume this time of year, your guys probably feel like there was a little extra juice at the very end of the season to these things?
Yeah, well, I think we know we're playing in meaningful games right now, and we've earned that. You know, we've earned the right to do that. And I think, you know, you look at certainly our strength of schedule, you know, some of our metrics, like we've earned this. And, you know, it's time to embrace that. It's not time to do anything other than live in the moment and make sure we're doing everything we can. Like today is our focus of having a good practice, good prep, and recovering and getting ready to have a great day tomorrow. And that's it. I think that's where the focus has to lie.
Nebraska is going through a 3-game losing streak, lost 4 of their last 5. Just what can you pinpoint that maybe hasn't clicked necessarily for them, and what do you expect them to maybe concentrate on to improve and come in here and get a win, I guess?
Well, I think, you know, some of those games have been a product of you know, getting behind early, you know, and digging a hole. But they've showed tremendous fight, you know, in multiple games to come back. And, you know, I think for us, like we have to be ready, you know, for all the different looks that they're going to present from an offensive standpoint, right? Like we have to be dialed in defensively. We can't give up easy, you know, any easy buckets, because, you know, every possession, you know, is important in a high caliber game like this. And then, you know, for us offensively, like we had a lull there in the second half against them. You know, their defense forces you to make decisions and forces you to play in crowds and, you know, tries to speed you up. We got to play with great poise, which I felt like we did a really good job with the last couple games. Played with great poise in the paint. We created some really good looks on the perimeter when we collapsed the defense and trusted the pass and the ball was moving, and we did some good cutting. So, you know, we expect to get their very best, Steve, and I think, you know, for us, like, again, our focus is to make sure we're doing that on our end and living in the moment.
How critical was the USC game to come out of there with the win, the way that you did, to pull it out at the end with a couple guys making great plays, and just the feeling around the team, you know, the last 6 days since you know, 5 days since you've been back, just how has that lifted everybody maybe a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think absolutely, you know, but even coming out of the UCLA game, because of how tough we played and how, you know, felt like we really played connected, there wasn't like this bad vibe where we had to fight to get the team back to get ready for the next game. You know, I felt like there were some things that, you know, we certainly needed to address, and we looked at film, but also, you know, we utilized the day after that game to rest in a more active recovery than going on the court. I thought that was beneficial. But, you know, and then coming out and winning a game on the road, which, you know, we had to certainly, we played really well, made, you know, high-level shot making in the first half. And then for us to, you know, combat the run that they went on in the second half to close out the game like we did with tremendous execution, you know, clutch free throws, and some big defensive plays down the stretch. I think to your point, says a lot about where we are right now from just a mentality standpoint.
Those 2 LA games seem to kind of show your ceiling and your floor offensively. And I know you like the toughness in the UCLA game, but have you been able, other than players being out, being ill, whatever, have you been able to identify things that are working when you guys are shooting it at your best and making baskets versus some of those games where it just hasn't clicked
Yeah. Well, I think, part of it is being able to create some advantage opportunities in transition with our defense. And, we haven't, some games we've taken advantage of that better than others. If you go back and really break it down, sometimes our efficiency has not been as good early in the clock as other games. And I think the biggest thing we've seen the last couple games is we're reading crowded situations better. We're trusting the pass better. Ball movement's been better. And, our pace in the half court, bodies moving, ball moving, attacking lanes has been better. So that was something, we've talked about, we've been working on for obviously a while and talking about it a lot, but I think it's really started to take hold these last couple games. And it's going to be really critical for tomorrow night, too.
To Dave's question earlier about this time of year, to have guys like Micah who have been through that, Bruce to a lesser extent, he hasn't had as much tournament experience, but these veteran guys with some of the guys who haven't gone through a ton of this, how much does that experience, even before you get to postseason play, how much does that give you advantages? How much do you lean on those guys?
Yeah, well, I think Micah's the guy on our team, right, who's been through it. Sean and Aaron experienced it last year a little bit, but their roles are different this year than what it was last year. So we certainly lean on that, but I think it's so important to just take it one game at a time and focus on the moment, and that's what it's been about. And it's, our guys, like even yesterday in practice, they weren't looking too far ahead. We had a good practice, and we got to have another good one, today. So you want to lean on those guys. But I think Bruce's leadership out in California was really good. In huddles, in timeouts, his voice, like Micah's voice, like those guys, Devin's, been talking more, which I think is really good for us. So we're seeing more and more player-to-player dialogue as this year has gone on. It's something we've been fighting for and trying to coach, right? Really been really intentional about that, but we're seeing more and more of it. And I thought it was some of the best we've had when we were out in California, and there's no reason to believe that's not going to continue. I've seen it continue so far since we've been back in practice, and plan on that being the case tomorrow night.
Can I ask you before you guys went out there about like what a road trip, almost NBA like, can be outside of the two games? What did you like? What kind of? Can you take us through what that's like for a team when you're staying somewhere for longer than you would if it's just one game and coming out?
Yeah, well, I think when you have a connected group and you have good chemistry like we do, and you're together, right, so much in kind of this confined space, it just can bring you closer together. And if we had a group maybe that didn't like each other and stuff, I might have a different opinion. But I thought the fact that we were just kind of forced all to be together and continue to grow as a group was pretty cool to see. And it allowed me to spend some more time with some guys individually because there was nothing else out there besides us, right? So yeah, I thought it was great. Unique to do it this late in the season, I think, but I felt like we made the most of it from that standpoint, and we were able to finish on a high note because of how close and connected we were. And it was good to see guys like enjoying being around each other.
Jake, you touched upon it on the radio show last home game. Considering how Buckeye Nation has embraced you and the team this entire year through thick and thin, how motivating is it to try and deliver a win in this final opportunity at home?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And, we've let some opportunities get kind of slip through our grasp here at home this year. A couple in particular that, if we could have back, would love to have those back. But, I think the way, our fans have continued to show support, I'm grateful, certainly, but it's impactful. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times we go into opposing arenas and how impactful some of those arenas are, with their fans. And, I think ours have shown up in a big way. The game against the team up north, was great from an energy and crowd impact. And we need it tomorrow. This is a big game against a really good team. And, for certainly our last home game, but like we need it. It's impactful. I've said that, after every home game, how impactful it can be. We've seen the peak of that against the team up north, and, the more help we can get, you know, from the people in the building, the better it helps us.
Jake, you got Kalen tomorrow night too. He's a 4-year guy. Like you said on the radio, he's gonna get his degree. He's only played in 23 games in 4 years, but he's been here through kind of a lot. What is the impact of someone like that who is with you for that long and isn't playing?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, what Kalen's done is he's embraced what we want this program to be about moving forward, and he's embraced that, you know, 2 feet in all year. And he plays a significant role in helping us prepare for teams. You know, what he does on scout team and learning the other team's plays and being able to execute that and practice hard every single day, it's really impactful. And, you know, it's not just coach speak, right? Like, it really does matter. And so for him to get, you know, that moment with his family before the game tomorrow, I think will be a great thing. And he's going to get his degree. He'll always be a part of this program. And, you know, someone from Ohio to get an Ohio State degree who just, you know, gave so much for the program, it's a great story. And it's one that'll impact him for the rest of his life because he's treated people well and he's worked hard.
And a guy like Bruce, who is not being honored tomorrow and still has another year, it's not often that somebody who contributes at such a high level like Bruce maybe plays 4 years in college. Like a William Buford kind of comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've had any conversations with Bruce about what lies beyond this year, but what is that? Have you had any conversations with him about that and, like, you know, the unlikely, like how rare it is moving forward that guys like that stay for 4 years anywhere?
Yeah, you don't get to see that, you know, near as much as you used to. I mean, Bruce and I, we talked about it before the season. Like, both of ours goal for him is to play his way into the NBA. And, you know, I hope that by the end of this season, he will have done enough to do that. You know, we want that for him. But the one thing about him, and part of what makes him such a good player, is he focuses on the here and now, you know, and then he goes hard every single day. He steps between the lines. He takes care of himself at a high level. So, you know, I think that's where the focus has been. But make no mistake, we both were aligned in what our goals were for him personally going into this season. And I think he's taken a step forward from where he was, you know, last year in that regard.
Finish up with Steve.
Sean Stewart seemed like he was getting a little bit more comfortable, if he could just stay on the court longer than, you know, the number of minutes. And then Bradshaw was able to get back in there a little bit, and I assume 5 days later is feeling hopefully a little bit better. Just to have those guys kind of starting to move in the right direction here. What's your thought about that position, those guys going into this last week here?
Yeah, I thought both of them had some good minutes against USC. You know, Sean's versatility defensively was important down the stretch. Listen, I thought a couple of the fouls against him were, you know, 50-50 calls at best that went against him. But, you know, I think he's battled through that. He's had enough experience battling through foul trouble this year to last him a whole career. But, you know, he's getting better, Steve, at that. And, listen, I think Aaron, going into the game, you know, we just, and our kind of medical staff was like, hey, there's going to be, like, he's going to be limited because of what he had gone through the previous handful of days. And I thought he showed tremendous fight, toughness. He got a little banged up when he had that, you know, if you remember the play, he dove out of bounds, saved the ball, goes down, hits a three. You know, but it was a cost to that effort play to some degree for the rest of that game. Now, I think he's doing much better. Had a really good practice yesterday. Feels in a better place. So, but both of those guys are really important for us. And the consistency, you know, factor, right, this year for them has been, both of them have been impacted. They haven't had the consistency, you know, that we had hoped from just an opportunity to grow, whether it's foul trouble, whether it's being sick or whatever, right? But I think both of them did some really good things at USC, and we need them to do some really good things for us tomorrow. And they've got a great deal of confidence, you know, in them and what they can provide for us. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what they're able to do tomorrow.
Coach, thanks.
All right, guys, thank you.
Thanks, Jake.